Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. So, here I am back again, Dr. Muhammad Abid Malik on our channel, theLearners. And before we start our lesson today, I just want to express my heartfelt gratitude to all of you for your excellent response, actually. I got so many messages, I got so many WhatsApp messages and SMS as well, from so many of my students. And also, a lot of very senior professors, they called me, they sent messages, to encourage me, to motivate me, to ask me to continue doing this thing. So before starting the lecture, I really, really want to thank all of them for your motivation, for your love, for your encouragement. Thank you very much indeed. And so here we go today, our lecture. Okay, here it is, our first ever lecture. First and foremost, you know what happened basically? A lot of people, a lot of students actually, they talked to me, they told me that this is a time for them to start their dissertation, their thesis, they want to start a process. And many of them told me that they are having a lot of difficulties in finding the research direction, in developing their research title, in developing their main research question. So originally I was thinking about to talk about like paradigm, but then I decided, I thought that this is something that is of more immediate need for them and they might need it a lot more. So what we have decided to have our first lecture about developing a research question. So here we go. Okay, what are the different ways? From where can you get your main research idea? From where can you get your research directions, right? There can be so many different sources to get your research idea, such as you want to test a theory, or you want to practice or test any kind of teaching method, right? We are going to talk about the details in the coming slides. So here I'm just talking about different sources, right? Then it can also be that there is some kind of previous research or literature review that inspires you, that motivates you, that puts you on some kind of specific direction or path. Informal observations, experiences based on your personal life, what you saw, what you experienced, and then practical problems. Practical problems are a very, very source of inspiration for finding research direction or research idea. And last but not the least, some kind of inspirational person, some kind of inspirational researcher. Now, let's talk about all of them in detail one by one. The first one is testing or practicing theory or some kind of teaching method. Now, what can happen? You have read about any kind of theory. You have read about any kind of theory and you just want to test it actually. There are so many learning theories. There are so many theories in leadership and management. For example, human relation theory is over there. You have read about this. You want to see how applicable it is in Pakistani context. You have read about any of the learning theories. You want to see how good they are in Pakistani culture, in American culture, in Chinese culture, in different kind of cultures where you belong to, and you want to test that theory in different kind of context and settings, different kind of classrooms. So you read about any kind of theory, you want to see if that theory is applicable in your context and culture as well, and you conduct some kind of research to test it. Second can be read about any teaching method. For example, I was doing some kind of reading. I came to know about flipped classroom. I was excited about it. I heard that this thing works very well in America. What about in Pakistan? So what I want to do basically, I want to see its application. I want to see its effectiveness over here in Pakistan. Can flipped classroom work as well as it works in other countries? Can it work in Pakistani context and culture at all? So what has happened? I read about any kind of teaching method and I want to see its effectiveness. I want to see its application in our culture and context. So this is also very, very important source of inspiration. And then in first two ways. What I'm doing, I've read about a theory, I've read about any kind of teaching method, and I want to test it in our culture. The same kind of source you can take, but you can carry out a different kind of research. What I can do, I can take the opinions or perception of the people about either that theory or about that teaching method actually. I want to, for example, activity-based classroom. I want to talk to the students who have been taught using that method. I want to talk to the teachers who have taught using that method or anybody who has been exposed to it. Then I want to take their opinions or perceptions, how good do you think it was? What kind of problems you were facing in it, what kind of benefits it had, so on and so forth. So in first two, we are conducting some kind of experimental study maybe to see how effective it is, does it really make a difference or not? And in the third one, I can take the opinion or perception of the people about them. Another very, very important source of inspiration is often previous research or literature review. First of all, it can happen that I want to apply previous research in a new setting. For example, I saw a research identifying causes of gender bias in school. I read an article in which the researcher conducted research or study and identifying causes of gender bias in UK, for example. What I'm going to do, I'm going to use the same scale, and then I'm conducting the same research in our setting in Pakistan. So basically what I'm doing, I'm applying a previous research in my setting to see how applicable it is. Number one, we can see its applicability, and we can also have different kind of findings. For example, the same topic that I was talking about, identifying causes of gender bias in schools. For example, somebody conducted research using a scale, questionnaire, in UK. I may use the same scale or questionnaire, modify it a little according to the Pakistani needs and culture, and then I can distribute the same scale in Pakistani schools to identify the gender bias in Pakistan. So this is how you can find that kind of research inspiration. You can get some kind of research idea. Another, finding research gaps in previous research. Sometimes you are reading an article and you find that, well, something is missing, something more should have been done. Maybe there is another angle that could have been covered, that should have been covered. You find some kind of gaps in the previous research. I'm not talking more about this one because in our example, we are going to discuss this one. So let's move on to the third one. It is any extension of the previous research. Now, that previous research can be carried out by yourself. It can also be carried out by somebody else. So what I'm doing the same kind of research and extending it further. For example, let's talk about the same topic. Somebody conducted a research identifying causes of gender bias in schools. And that person conducted research using questionnaires or scales. What I can do, I can extend the same kind of research, and I think that maybe through questionnaires, you cannot get all the points, all the ideas, you cannot probe properly. So what I'm doing, I'm extending the same kind of research, but this time either I'm using interviews, qualitative research method, or I'm using mixed method research, right? So these are the three ways in which you can use previous research or literature review to find research idea or research direction, right? Good. Another one is that informal observations or experiences by yourself. Okay. The first one, you observe something informally and you get some kind of research idea about it. Actually, I will talk about this one in detail in the example actually, because my example is about the same topic. But briefly, I saw the Chinese students when I was there in China, they speak very less in the classroom. Whereas international students, they speak a lot, they spoke a lot in the classroom. So that kind of led me to some kind of research based on that tentative, very informal, very broad kind of observation. How I converted that research, informal observation into specific research question, we are going to talk later. Okay, number two, you experience something. For example, I'm teaching mathematics in a school. I realize students do not take interest in mathematics teaching. So what I can do, I can conduct research about it. I can first of all ask them, is it that teaching method that they do not like it? Is it the personality of the teacher that do not like it? Are they finding mathematics very boring? Is it that the content, they are very dry? So what is the reason behind that? So first of all, I can identify what are the reasons they do not take interest in mathematics. And then of course, if I'm interested, I can conduct another study in which I can use some kind of alternate strategy, or I can redefine, reshape curriculum, redevelop it actually, or add some more interesting activities to increase the interest level of the students. Practical problem, actually very similar to the previous one, but the difference is that in informal observations, you are the one who observed something, right? In experiences, you are the one who faced that problem, who saw that thing, who were exposed to that. But in practical problems, maybe you didn't see it actually, you didn't go through it actually, you didn't observe it, but somebody told you, right? Now, practical problems, first of all, maybe some teacher tell you that students are not learning grammar effectively. So what I can do, I can conduct a study teaching them grammar using different methods or techniques, and then see how can we teach them grammar effectively. I can use different kind of audio video aids, I can use different kind of classroom environment, I can use student-centered learning, So the problem has been told by somebody else, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to see how I can solve that problem, how can I help the teacher in improving that. Another, for example, I observed, somebody told me that in a university, the graduate students, they are not able to get jobs in the market, So that person told you about this issue, that problem, and based on that practical issue that the students of that particular university is having, you can develop your research idea, and later you can conduct a very good research about it. How? Go to the market, talk to the people in the market, what are their needs, Maybe they tell you that these students, they cannot speak English properly. Maybe they lack confidence, whereas the market, they need people with confidence. It's good spoken English skills. So then you can come back, you can recommend it, you can suggest to the university that, okay, if you have some kind of activities to improve the confidence level of the students or improve their spoken English, then their acceptability, their employability will increase a lot. Okay, so somebody told you a practical problem, and then based on that broader idea, you develop your research. Inspirational researcher, well, very simple and straightforward. Maybe some teacher, maybe some researcher, maybe some scholar. You talk to that person, you really, really like them, you were inspired by them, by that particular person, him or her, or more than one maybe. So what do you want? You simply want to follow their footsteps. And actually, the same thing happened with me as well. When I met Professor Mark Gray of University of Hong Kong, I got so inspired and impressed by him that I started to follow his research area, that is shadow education. I would have never done anything about shadow education without his influence. So the same can happen to you as well. Maybe some very, very good teacher is teaching education leadership. And because of his very influential, very impressive teaching style, you want to conduct research and study in education leadership, right? Okay, now what we are talking about, we have got some kind of broader idea about research. How can we move to specific research questions, right? Your main research questions. What to do? you have got some kind of broader research idea or direction from any of those sources, any of those inspirations actually. What you do after that, you go back to the literature. You read about the literature, you see if the research has already been carried out in that area, if that has already been carried out, in which way. You can see through the literature what are the gaps in that research area. What are the ways in which I can carry substantial, innovative research in that area? So, first of all, broader idea, then you go back to the literature. Literature helps you, it guides you, to polish your ideas further, to bring them in a more professional and proper way, and then based on that, you can go to your research question. Okay, before moving to our example, just very briefly, I would like to discuss qualities of a good research question. Good research question means good research topic, or the main research question. Okay, neither should it be too broad nor very narrow. For example, you say influence of good teacher on students. I mean, this topic seems to be too broad. Influence of good teacher. What do you mean by good? How to define good? I mean, good means the teacher who is good in morality, the teacher who is good in teaching, the teacher who is good and means effective actually, and his influence on students in what way? Influence on the students' learning, their personality, their ethical standards, their motivation, their personality development. So, in what way? So, the topic seems to be too broad. If you try to conduct this topic, in your research, you cannot grab it in totality. You'll be moving in so many different directions and may not be able to have a very specific and focused research. So, if you want this one, then narrow it down further. Make it a little bit specific so that you can conduct research nicely. Neither should your research be too narrow. Too narrow means that there's not a lot of things to probe actually. Because remember, when you're writing your research paper, you're supposed to be writing at least 7 to 10 pages. I mean, if you want to send your paper to any international journal, then 20, 25, 30 pages are often there as well. When you're writing your dissertation or thesis, in that case as well, you need to write like 50 to 60 pages. So the research question should be broad enough that you are able to write that many pages, but it should not be too broad that you lose your focus. Second, it should be specific and focused. Specific and focused means, you should be going in a certain direction. You should not be having multiple questions in your main research. Of course, when you conduct a research, one is your main research question, and then within that, you have got different research questions as well in your thesis or research paper. That we are going to talk in any other lecture. But in our main research question, research title, research topic, it should be talking about one thing, so that you can probe deeply and properly. Again, it should be researchable and feasible. Very, very important actually. Often a lot of students, they come to me, they're talking about different research questions, and my question is always to them, do you really think you can get access to this kind of sample? Do you really think you can go to all those far off places that you have mentioned in your research area? Do you think it is feasible for you financially? You talk about, getting data from this area and you need to travel a lot. So is it feasible? Can you do it within the limited amount of time when you're doing your thesis or dissertation? You have a very, very limited amount of time. You have to do it like 6 months, 3 months, 1 year, 2 years, something like that. If the research is too big actually, that you cannot do it within that specific amount of time, it is useless for you. So, I just want to share something that one of my favorite teacher actually, he told me. Once it so happened, I was talking to him, and very excitedly, I presented a research idea. I was talking about it and he listened to me very carefully, very patiently, very magnanimously. And once I finished talking, he said to me one thing. He said, Abid, listen, you build an aeroplane that is very big, that is very beautiful, you know, it's very extravagant, it looks marvelous actually. It's very well painted and everything's, really, really catches your eyes. But the plane cannot fly at all. So what's the benefit of that plane? It is a lot better to have a plane which may be simpler, which may be lighter, but at least it can fly. Similarly, when it comes to your research question, it should be able to fly. You should be able to conduct successful research within the limitations of time, of resources, of expertise, and all those other permissions as well. So this is very, very important. Whenever you're thinking about any research topic, ask yourself, can I gather data from these people? Do I have money for that? Do I have time for that? Do I have permission for that? Do I have access to for that? Do I have expertise for that? If not, better have another topic. And the last one, personal inclination, expertise, and limitations. Limitations, when I was talking about, okay, another point I will discuss over here. Personal inclination, maybe you don't like mathematics. Maybe you have no idea what statistics is. Maybe you do not know how to use SPSS. In that way, it is a lot better to conduct qualitative research, because your inclination, your expertise, they are more towards qualitative research. You love to play with words, but with numbers, you're not that good actually. So look at your personal inclination and expertise. Another thing, if you are more inclined toward gender issues, some people are feminists, if you want to explore about gender issues, you feel more motivated, you feel more interested actually in the topic, go for that. Then because of your motivation, because of your passion, you'll be able to carry out a lot better research than if something is simply imposed upon you. So your inclination, your research, very important. Expertise, what I talked about earlier, very important. Limitation, some of them I talked in the previous point. I would like to discuss another thing. For example, you are doing some kind of job. You are very, very busy. You don't have time to go out of your house, go from place to place to gather data. Maybe you're a girl in a conservative country, or from a conservative area, and your parents are not allowing you to go out of the house and gather data. So if you have got these kind of limitations, then you better go for content analysis because you can do it while staying in your house. You better go for secondary source data analysis. You can easily gather a lot of data from any kind of international organization, and there you can very easily conduct research. Maybe you can go for meta-analysis, very, very common and very popular these days. Gather a lot of research that has already been done, conduct some kind of meta-analysis, and you can write a very good dissertation, thesis, or paper. So know your limitations very well. What you cannot do. You start something, after some time you realize when you're about to gather the data, I am not allowed. I do not have permission. I don't have time. So you will have to go back to the point one and redo everything. So at the start, once you're finalizing your topic, keep these things in your mind, extremely important. Now, I just want to share my personal experience, how I moved from idea to research question. First of all, when I was doing a master's over here in China, actually, I had an informal general observation. What was the observation? I realized that the Chinese students, they speak very less in their classes actually. They were a lot more focused on self-learning. It's not that they do not work hard, they work very, very hard. But instead of speaking a lot in the classroom, they do more self-learning and reading it. Whereas the international students, they were very, very active. They were very, very vocal in the classes, So it was my general observation. I was interested in that topic, in that, general idea. So what I did, I started reading literature about that, about reticence of Chinese students in the classroom, about silence of Chinese students in the classroom, about oral interaction of Chinese students in the classroom, blah, blah, blah. So I conducted a lot of literature review about that topic, about that general idea based on my observation. And what I found in literature, there was a lot of research about Chinese students in EFL, English as a foreign language classes, or in English-speaking countries. And all of those papers, almost all of those papers, they concluded that the reticence of the Chinese students was due to foreign language influence because they were in English language classes, so they were overwhelmed by the language. They were a little frightened, maybe a little afraid that they could not speak well, or it was because of the foreign culture, because they were in a new culture, in a different culture. That is why they were silent. So, what it led to was research gap. The question that came to my mind immediately, well, in EFL classes or in English-speaking countries, they do not speak a lot because of the foreign language. Okay, I buy that. Or because of the foreign culture. Perfect. But what about if they are taught in a Chinese class, in a Chinese university, taught by a Chinese teacher in Chinese language? That would tell us if the influence were completely because of the foreign language, or because of the foreign language, or it was because of their own nature or culture. The research gap was that there was no research or very, very limited research in English I'm talking about Chinese students in Chinese university classes who were taught in Chinese. That research could answer all of those questions that came to my mind when I was doing the literature review. So immediately that stood out as research gap. So what I did then, based on that research gap, I worked on that. I developed that into a research topic. Now, this is paper I have already written actually. It has been published. That's why I'm sharing the my research article title. It was Students' Oral Involvement in the Chinese University Classroom, a comparison between classes of Chinese and international students. So, basically what I did, I carried out observation, me and my research fellow, both of us, we carried out observations in two different classes, both in a Chinese university. Both classes were taught by the same teacher, Chinese teacher. One class consisted of the Chinese students and they were taught in Chinese language. Other class was composed entirely of international students and it was taught in English, We conducted observation, we compared the two to find the answers or in order to reduce that research gap. So similarly, you can also move from general observation or some kind of theory or maybe some kind of problem that somebody told you, go back to the literature, identify research gaps, and then make your research question, right? This is how it should be done. Yeah. Now, if you like the video, then kindly subscribe to it and press the bell button, so that next time, whenever a new video is uploaded, you can immediately get information about that. And I would really appreciate if you have any questions, if you want to suggest any topic for the next lecture, you can send me a message on WhatsApp. The number is over there, 0092-317-4949855. Kindly do not call, simply send WhatsApp messages, I will check all of them, and then based on your suggestions, based on your questions or queries, we are going to have our next lecture. And another thing, please, if you like the video, you think some of your fellows, some of your friends, they also need the same kind of information, please share the link with them as well, right? Thank you, guys. Take care. Bye bye. Hope to see you. Well, not the same time, of course, but the